The sink sighed as the last soap ribbons vanished. My phone lit the counter. Mom, don't forget the leftovers. No greeting, no warmth, just an instruction. Then came the photo. Jason and Lauren sat across from her parents at the Lantern and Stone, the kind of place where candles pretend to listen. Ribeye steaks glistened under gold light, wine glasses tilted mid-toast. Their smiles were the practiced kind, bright enough to photograph, detached enough to forget who took the picture. I stared longer than I should have. That restaurant used to be ours. When Jason was 10, we'd save for one slice of carrot cake to split. He'd say the cream cheese frosting tasted like clouds. I still remember how he'd swing his legs beneath the booth, impatient for the waitress to bring the check so he could snatch the mint from the tray. Now the same booth was filled, with her laughter, their life, and I was a ghost flickering in the reflection of someone else's perfect evening. I set the phone face down. The screen dimmed, but the ache didn't. The fridge opened with a sigh of its own, half a casserole, a forgotten Tupperware, the kind of leftovers you keep out of politeness. The chill touched my wrist like a reminder. Cold doesn't always come from weather. The house hummed, indifferent. The clock ticked too loudly, as if timing my silence. I folded the dish towel one more time, slower, because it was the only thing left to tidy. Sometimes loneliness doesn't announce itself. It just rearranges your kitchen until nothing looks like it remembers you. I looked around the room that used to hold birthdays, holidays, laughter that bounced off tile. Tonight, it only held the soft buzz of an appliance and the quiet decision already forming in my chest. This time, I wouldn't wait to be remembered. Hi, I'm Nora Bennett. People think silence means peace. It doesn't. Sometimes it's just the sound of someone who gave too much, learning how to stop. Before I tell you the rest, I want you to do something for me. If you're here, tap like, hit subscribe, and tell me where you're listening from. Are you in Texas, California, New York, maybe somewhere far away, curled up in your kitchen like I used to be? Aap meri kahani kahan se sun rahe hain? Drop your city below. Because this isn't just my story. It's for every person who ever stayed quiet too long, waiting to be noticed in a house that stopped seeing them. So, let's start from the beginning. 2 years ago, when my son Jason called, his voice tight with worry, I said yes before he even finished asking. Just until Lauren goes back to work, he'd said. You'd be doing us a huge favor, Mom. And Ollie loves you. I packed up my condo in 2 weekends, gave away half my furniture, told everyone I was excited. And at first, I was. I cooked dinners, folded laundry, rocked Ollie through fevers, hummed lullabies in hallways that weren't mine. I didn't mind. Family was supposed to mean together, right? But together slowly turned into invisible. Little things first. Plans I wasn't told about, dinners I wasn't invited to, laughter that stopped when I entered the room. I told myself I was overthinking, that they were just busy, that love could survive being overlooked. But love, real love, doesn't fade in silence. It dies there. And that's when I realized I hadn't lost my family. I had just lost permission to exist inside their version of it. When you've worked with numbers your whole life, you start to see patterns, how things add up, and more painfully, how they stop. I'd spent 30 years as an accountant. My comfort was always in neat columns, clean balances, quiet proof that effort had value. So when Jason and Lauren asked for help buying the house, I treated it like any other equation. Their dream, my savings, a family solved on paper. They were short on closing day. The lender called, panicked. Without hesitation, I wired $78,000 from Mark's pension, my late husband's last legacy. Jason said I'd save them. Lauren brought flowers. I remember the pink ribbon around the vase. Tight, perfect, polite. "We'll sort it out later," they said. Later never came. The flowers wilted in 3 days. The papers didn't. After that, things blurred into routine. Groceries, laundry, Ollie's morning cereal, my name on every bill. They called me Mom like a habit, not a presence. And habits, I've learned, can make even love sound mechanical. The folder in my dresser drawer, labeled House/Bennett, wasn't revenge. It was record keeping. Deeds, transfers, bank drafts, dates written in my tidy blue pen, proof that I hadn't imagined how much I gave. Some nights I'd open it just to feel steady again, because when everyone else forgets, the paper remembers. One evening, while folding laundry, I caught my reflection in the dark window. I didn't look like a woman living with family. I looked like a tenant, quiet, helpful, and unpaid. That's when I started thinking about the line between generosity and erasure, and how sometimes the kindest thing you can do for the people you love is finally make them live without your silence. It happened on an ordinary Thursday, the kind where the air feels too still, and even the light seems to be waiting for something to break. I was halfway up the stairs, holding a basket of clean towels against my chest. Fresh linen, folded with the kind of care that goes unnoticed until it stops. That's when I heard them. Lauren's voice first, clear, clipped, decisive. "Once we move her upstairs, we can finally turn the suite into an office. It's got perfect light." Then Jason, quieter, tired. "She won't argue. She never does." The towels pressed tighter against me. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. Maybe they meant someone else, a decorator, a guest. But then I heard Lauren laugh, that bright, effortless sound she uses when she's already made up her mind. The suite they meant was the master bedroom, my room, the one I gave them when Ollie was born and Lauren couldn't sleep through the night. Just until she felt better, I'd said. That was 2 years ago. I stood there on the landing, feet frozen, heart moving fast. I waited for my name to soften in guilt, for a pause, an apology, a whisper of kindness. It never came. Only the sound of silverware clinking and a drawer closing. "It's quieter up there," Lauren said. "She'll be fine." Up there? Smaller? Out of sight? I stepped backwards, careful not to let the floorboards creak, closed my door slowly until the latch clicked, a small, lonely sound that felt louder than their entire conversation. In the mirror, I saw a woman clutching towels like armor, a woman who had given her home away piece by piece and just realized she'd been redecorated out of it. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house had its own rhythm, faint hum of the refrigerator, pipes murmuring like old ghosts. But underneath it all, there was a silence that felt deliberate, like the house itself had taken their side. So I got up, slipped my robe on, opened the closet. The lockbox was still there, small, heavy, gray. I hadn't opened it in years. Inside were the things that never forget: deeds, receipts, pension records, bank slips. Everything with my name printed neatly, Nora Bennett, as if the paper itself was reminding me who I used to be. The flashlight beam trembled a little as I pulled each document out. The mortgage statement still listed me as co-owner. The electric bill, the water account, the insurance renewals, all in my name. Not theirs, mine. I stacked them in a careful pile, like bricks from a wall I was quietly rebuilding. When I reached the last envelope, I found the paperwork from Square Bank, the same bank that had been quietly auto-drafting payments every month from my account. I stared at the balance, the transactions, the way generosity had turned into quiet theft. I didn't cry. Not that night. Instead, I opened my planner and wrote just 3 words in tomorrow's square. Square Bank, 9 a.m. I closed the lockbox and slid it under the bed, then sat for a long time, hands still on the lid, breathing evenly, the way you do before stepping into cold water. Somewhere downstairs, the clock ticked past midnight, the kind of hour when endings start pretending to be beginnings. That night, I didn't feel powerless anymore. I just felt ready. The morning air was thin, sharp with early frost. I left before sunrise. No note, no noise. Just the quiet click of the front door behind me. The street lights were still glowing faintly, like they hadn't decided if the night was over yet. I parked outside Square Bank, the same branch where I'd stood beside Jason 3 years earlier, signing papers with pride, thinking I was helping him build a future. Now, the same marble counter gleamed under cold fluorescent light, and I felt the strange symmetry of it all, how the same place can witness both surrender and return. The clerk smiled politely. "Good morning, ma'am. How can I help you today?" I slid my ID across the counter, my voice calm but certain. "I'd like to make some changes to my accounts." She typed quickly, unaware of what that sentence meant to me. "Joint account ending in 4272. You're listed as primary. Would you like to remove a name?" "Yes," I said. "Both of them." Her fingers paused over the keyboard, but she nodded. Papers appeared, pens clicked. My hand didn't shake. I signed 3 times, initials neat and even, the way I'd always signed everything. For them, for bills, for birthdays, for peace. Only this time, it was for me. When I finished, she smiled again. "All set, Mrs. Bennett. Transfers will finalize within 24 hours. I thanked her, gathered the papers, and stepped outside. The cold air felt cleaner somehow. Then I called my lawyer. I'd like to revoke power of attorney, effective immediately. No hesitation, no tremor, just truth made audible. The last call was to my accountant. "Move the trust," I told him. "Everything in my name only." By the time I hung up, the first light of morning broke through the clouds. Soft, gold, unapologetic. For the first time in years, my name stood alone, and it felt like standing up. By the time I turned off the main road toward Lake Harrow, the frost had begun to melt into soft ribbons of mist. The world looked half-dreamed, bare trees tracing shadows across the asphalt, sunlight catching on the frozen edges of the water. The key felt heavier than it should have. I'd signed the lease 6 weeks earlier under my maiden name, Nora Vaughn, before I even admitted to myself why. Maybe part of me already knew I wouldn't stay in that house much longer. Maybe courage always starts in secret. The apartment was small but warm. 1 bedroom, a kitchenette, and a window that looked out toward the lake. The walls smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and new paint. No family photos, no baby monitors, no half-finished conversations echoing down the hallway. Just space, quiet, unassuming, mine. I filled the kettle and watched it boil. Steam curled upward, silver against the morning light. For years, I'd made tea for others. This cup was different. I poured it slowly, both hands steady on the handle, the whistle still singing when I took my first sip. My phone buzzed. Jason. Did you leave early for errands? Then another message. Mom, everything okay? I set the phone face down on the table, let it buzz again, then stop. Outside, the lake was thawing, cracks of water glinting between ice sheets like veins waking up after a long sleep. I sat by the window, wrapped in an old cardigan, and listened to the silence that didn't hurt anymore. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for footsteps, for a voice calling Mom only when something needed fixing. I was just breathing, present, untethered. Freedom doesn't always come as fireworks. Sometimes it's a quiet apartment by a half-frozen lake and a woman learning that solitude can sound a lot like peace. It was a little past noon when the buzzer sounded, short, sharp, impatient. The second buzz came quicker, nervous, almost frantic. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and walked to the door. Jason. He stood in the entryway of the building, hair mussed like he'd run his hand through it 100 times on the drive over. He wasn't wearing a coat, just a sweatshirt and guilt. I could see it all over him. The tight jaw, the restless eyes, the boy he used to be trying to find a place in the man he'd become. I pressed the button to let him into the lobby, but didn't open my own door yet. I watched through the glass as he stepped inside, shifting from foot to foot, searching for the words. Mom, he said, voice cracking on the edge of it. Can we talk? I opened the door halfway. I think we just did. We didn't mean to make you feel like a maid, he started, fumbling. I don't feel like a maid, I said quietly. I felt like a placeholder. The word hung there between us, sharp and true. He blinked, taken aback. I watched his throat tighten, his eyes gloss over, and for a moment I saw the boy who used to climb into my lap after nightmares, the one who trusted me to make the dark go away. He didn't think you'd actually leave, he whispered. I know, I said. That's the problem. He nodded once, the smallest movement, the kind that says, you're right, but I don't know how to fix it. Then I did something I'd never done before. I closed the door first, not out of anger, but completion. Inside, the kettle clicked off. The house smelled of tea and lemon cleaner and something new. Not loneliness, not loss, just freedom, steeping quietly, one breath at a time. The days that followed didn't roar. They unfolded, softly, like pages turning themselves. I started marking them, not with pain, but with small rituals. Watering the balcony plants, folding my sweater before bed, lighting a candle at dusk. It's strange how the world expands once you stop shrinking for other people. On Tuesdays, I joined a ceramics class at the community center. The first time, the clay clung to my palms, rough, stubborn, refusing to take shape. I almost gave up, but the instructor, a kind woman named Renee, smiled and said, "Sometimes it needs to fight you first. That's how you know it's becoming something." So I pressed harder, kneading, turning, shaping. The clay began to listen. By the third week, I'd molded a bowl, lopsided, imperfect, but mine. I ran my thumb over its edge and realized it felt exactly like starting over, awkward, uneven, but alive. On Tuesdays, I joined the local literacy group, mostly kids, some teenagers. They stumbled through old storybooks, tracing words with their fingers the way Jason once traced the moons on my office calendar. One boy asked me, "Do you like stories, Mrs. Bennett?" I smiled. I do, especially the ones that don't end where they're supposed to. I read aloud that day until my voice softened around every word I'd been too afraid to say before. Evenings were my favorite. I'd open the windows, let in the smell of coffee from the shop downstairs, the hum of passing bikes, the laughter of strangers who didn't know me, but somehow made me feel less alone. For the first time in years, I didn't dread quiet. I didn't chase noise to prove I existed. I was learning the rhythm of stillness,
the sound of healing disguised as ordinary life. Some nights, I'd look out at the lake, its surface smooth as glass, and whisper, almost without meaning to, This is what it means to come home." It was a Saturday morning painted in soft gold, the kind of morning that doesn't rush you, just waits, patient and kind. I was watering the small fern by the window when the buzzer rang once. Not frantic, not impatient, just once. When I opened the door, Ollie stood there, cheeks flushed, sneakers untied, a streak of blue marker smudged across his chin. He held a crooked piece of paper, folded twice, and colored with uneven hearts. "Hi, Grandma," he said. His voice was small, but sure. "I made this at school." No one stood behind him. No car idling outside. Just Ollie and the morning light. I knelt to his height. "You came all by yourself?" He nodded proudly. "Dad dropped me off at the corner. He said I knew the way." I smiled, my throat tightening. "You remembered." He grinned. "You have snacks?" We spent the next hour on the living room rug, pieces of an old puzzle spread between us. He told me about his class turtle named Jetpack, about how he wants to build a rocket one day, about how Lauren burns pancakes every Sunday. I listened, every word an anchor pulling me gently back into the world. When the last puzzle piece clicked into place, Ollie looked up. "Can I come back next week?" I touched his hair. "Yes, sweetheart, next week." After he left, I stayed by the window for a long while, watching him walk down the sidewalk, the wind tugging at his jacket. He turned once and waved. I waved back. The apartment was quiet again, but not the kind of quiet that hurts. This one hummed softly, like peace, like forgiveness I didn't need to name. On the bookshelf, a framed photo sat face down. Jason, maybe 5 years old, sitting on a swing, his arms stretched towards the sky. I reached out, turned it face up, and let it stay that way. Not as a gesture of forgetting, but as acknowledgement that love, even wounded, can still breathe when it's given space. That day the light felt different, warmer, truer. And for the first time in years, I whispered to the room, "I'm okay now."